Hey guys, so I figured since tomorrow I have school, I would show you a little special effects tutorial I figured out to do while I was just messing around. I swear, nobody should let me get bored. It gets deadly. Anyway, I have latex gloves that are just really old and I never used them, so I figured I would make liquid foundation into a latex paste with it by putting it over the latex and just kind of making a gluey substance to cover it with, and then forcing it to fix itself with a little bit of a dry shampoo, just dollar store dry shampoo. But I found out I can also make little balls of moldable skin toned clay almost. It's like a clay. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make that. I have some foundation that I mixed up a long time ago with a little bit of cocoa butter lotion. I'm going to do a little bit more because it does soften skin and it helps with evening skin tone stuff and staying hydrated. So I figured I'd rather put more of that in than not put any more in and possibly dry out my skin, because the next ingredient in this, besides the powder that's been in here for a long time, because originally it was a pressed powder foundation that I made, is I'm going to need to put glue in it. So I'm just using all-purpose dollar store school glue, because that's going to be what gives it the slight tacky texture, but also still keep it from being too tacky, which is why there's powder. But dry shampoo can also help in a pinch because it is very powdery, so it'll definitely help you with making a good clay-like substance. So this could almost be a clay right here, but it doesn't really have much of a sticky property to it, which is why I needed the glue, because the glue is going to give it a little bit of stick. So here's the glue. It is just all-purpose dollar store crafter's glue. Now make sure you do a patch test on your skin before you do this craft in full, because if you are allergic to something in there, you should know before you do any special effects with it. And it just popped. Oh boy, I gotta try and get that little lid out. Or not the lid, but the little nozzle. And it's covered in my colored powdered foundation mixture. That's what that pop was, by the way. It was the lid exploding out of the nozzle, exploding out of the tube. Don't want to put too much glue in either, because too much glue will just not make anything any better. You want a very small dab of glue. Now I have about an ounce to an ounce and a half of product in here, so a couple of drops is literally all I'm going to need. And I did start to let this glue dry out slightly, just enough to create kind of a thicker texture, and also to kind of prevent from being too tacky. As you'll notice now, it's even tackier than before, which is typical of it, and it's becoming very paste-like. And as it dries, it will get a little more skin-like. but I'm actually going to put in some of my dry shampoo, also do a skin test with dry shampoo. Literally every ingredient that's in here, do a skin test first. And I feel like now that I'm going to school for cosmetology, I've really got to stress that. Always do a skin test, kids. You do not want to have any allergic reactions for Halloween. That would not be a fun Halloween costume at all. An allergic reaction Halloween costume does not sound fun. So, this is kind of what it's starting to look like. Still really pastish and not really what I'm looking for. So it did mix all of the powders in nicely with the glue, and they're creating a definitely smoother surface. But I still need more powder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my lavender powder, if I can find it. It is on my bed, which, sorry guys, my bed has turned into my crafting corner during the day when I'm home. Which is why I haven't been able to find anything, because I have turned my entire bed into my crafting space. Oh, probably drives my family nuts like that too. Now, I'm probably going to be that one person who ends up using this for the heck of it too, but most people probably won't. And of course, this is always live when I have issues, because, well, I've never had a live stream that was seamless. I guess that's kind of what I get. Also, don't forget, you guys can use tongue depressors, popsicle sticks, whatever, to mix. I probably will end up using them as mixing sticks. Oh, man. Also, make sure you have like wet wipes or baby wipes or something on hand with you to clean up messes as you go, especially on your skin. And have it in case you start having like a reaction or whatever. Oh no. This is just a disaster. Okay. Let's see what I have in my junk drawer by my bed. Here it is. Maybe that'll have something helpful. So I remember at one point I had powder in here for crafting purposes. So who knows, maybe it's still, oh wait, no, I might have moved it. Hold on, guys. I am so sorry. This has turned into a massive mess. Oh, speaking of massive mess, oh my gosh, I started getting this on my bed. Not good. Okay, I'm gonna move this over there. It's on my pillow right there. It's really gross looking. And my dog is in here, so you guys might see her in here at some point. Okay, see, because this is what it's supposed to be like, but more powdery. This is too creamy right this moment, but it is supposed to be a lot more powdery and like almost like a silicone. So okay, let's see which of my powders I find first, because I have a couple different powders roaming around my room. I have crafter problems here. I am such a mess when I craft. There we go. Baby powder. That will definitely do the trick. Okay. Oh, okay, my dog stole my spot. So, change of scenery. For all you lovely people who watch this. On my channel later on. I'm gonna get my little station here back. You guys aren't gonna be able to see it, so I'll lift it up occasionally. Okay. So, got my powder. I'm gonna put it in a little bit at a time. And start creating more of a clay. I want less of a paste and more of a clay, because that's how we're going to keep it the right consistency, and the glue is going to help to keep it on your face, but also helps it to create a little bit of a clay. So it's starting to get there. It's a little more, it's a little thicker, a little more clay-like, more powder. Just eyeball this, guys. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement, because I can't tell you an exact measurement, because one, everybody's going to start with different amounts of everything. Two, I'm not really trying to measure it for myself. I just want to make sure I get an eyeballed consistency. Now, if you are someone who prefers to measure, start with a 1-to-1 ratio and work your way up. But I find doing it visually is a lot easier for me than it is to measure it out on like a scale or something, or like in measuring cups. But whatever works for you, do it. So it is now finally becoming more clay-like as I mix it by the minute. So we want to make sure all of the powder is thoroughly worked into the entire mixture. See, it's not even really doing much of a sticking. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the consistency. I can roll it in a ball. It's not leaving a big tacky mess. And on the days that you do use this, I would recommend having a little bit of powder on your hands and at the ready to help ensure that it won't stick all over the place too much. So just kind of work it, rub it in some spilled powder, just to kind of bring it to a smoother, softer, slightly less sticky consistency. I mean, you still want a little bit of stick, but not much. So here's my skin colored clay, and then I'm going to show you guys on my nose how to blend it in. So you just start smoothing it out on your face and kind of creating the shape that you want and smoothing it into your skin. Obviously you'll be able to do your makeup over this, but I just wanted to show you how to smooth it in a little. And again, this is all gonna start being a project where you just gotta figure out what works best for you and doing that. It works different for everybody. But as you can see, I was easily able to get it all off. Took a couple strokes worth, but it came off. and it's back in its little ball here. Now I have here my latex piece, and I have a fresh piece because I didn't at the time have that clay made. So here's a fresh piece of latex because I do want to start working more in the special effects realm for Halloween. So you take some of your clay and you just start pushing it on your latex, get it worked in there, and you'll be able to smooth it out, and it'll start looking more skin-like eventually, which is good. And you can make all sorts of prosthetics with this clay. I don't think I've ever seen anybody use this particular type of homemade clay, but I'm sure plenty of people have made prosthetics with this stuff. And if you make huge, huge, huge batches, you could probably make full body prosthetics or like half body prosthetics, something cool like that. Or you can just make a lot of body clay. So it's like skin toned clay for your body, customized for you, which is really cool. And then you can make tons of prosthetics with it. And I'm sure that if you found a way to like maybe bake it for a little bit in the oven on a low temperature to get it to set, or use a hairdryer, you could probably use a hairdryer just to make those prosthetics for yourself, you're definitely going to be having fun doing this. I mean, I definitely have been having fun creating this, and I know I did most of it off stream because I had a lot of this stuff already that I used normally for makeup, and then I decided to turn it into a little bit different of a thing, which that's half of the fun of all of this. Is you can have it for one thing and then turn it into another later on and just have a cool whole entire stash of homemade products that you can use, make for a very affordable price, and get some really cool stuff out of it. So I'm going to start by hand kneading the clay between my fingers because I did put more powder in it and I want to make sure it's still usable and that I don't need to make it a little more liquidy, which I highly doubt I'll need to because I have been very, very careful with my paste. So this is what I like to, this is why I call it body clay. It looks super close to my skin, and once I like mash it on and smooth it and put makeup over it, it'll definitely look like my skin. But it'll give me a totally different look. Now, most people that I've seen on the internet make this kind of stuff use liquid latex, but I don't have liquid latex, so this is what I've been using today to make it work for me as if it were liquid latex. And I just, as I go, knead it together, make sure everything's working well when it gets into a bigger bunch. This looks so cool. And it doesn't smell terrible because of the fact that we used cocoa lotion and baby powder. So if you guys want to know what lotion I'm talking about, it's this stuff. I actually use it on my body all the time after like showers and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll use it on my face. It just kind of depends, but I thought it would be cool to try and make a body clay with it, and then when I figured it out, because I did it on accident, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to film this for you guys so that you guys can see how I make my body clay, because I feel like this will definitely come in handy to make prosthetics for Halloween. And this stuff is really easy to mold to your specific needs, which is good, because, well, that's usually why people use liquid latex. But if you don't have liquid latex to make this kind of thing, then at least you can do it on a budget with like dollar store stuff or pharmacy stuff, Target, whatever you do to get cheap makeup, you can do it on a budget because of that, and it's really nice. Your heat will make it a little more pliable, so I do warn you that it might be a little bit of a problem. But you can just work in other stuff to create the right texture for you, and it really does just end up being an experimentational thing where you gotta figure out what works best for you, and it ends up just whatever works best for you is gonna be the easiest thing for you to do. So I'm just getting the rest of it out of the little pot here and folding it in on itself. Now, if there's too much powder, it'll start cracking and flaking, which mine is a little bit. But it's not too terrible. So honestly, I'll probably just need to work in a little bit more of the lotion, but not too much. Gotta be very careful with that, because it can easily become too much. So just a little bit more of the lotion. I'm gonna say probably about half a tablespoon at the most. Maybe a little bit more glue if necessary. But again, you don't want too much glue, because that could just make a big mess that no one wants to deal with. Okay, too much. It's starting to form a wet clay. If anyone has ever taken pottery, they will know what wet clay feels like and looks like. This is kind of what it looks like. It's really, really gross, super pliable, and not what I'm looking for. So, this is why we have the little wipes, makeup wipes, water wipes, whatever, baby wipe in general, or just some wet wipes, or even wet paper towels or wet washcloths will do the trick. Just something to clean your hands off with, because this does get very messy very fast. Put a little bit more powder in there. Even half a tablespoon would have been too much. I did like a 2 teaspoon to a teaspoon. And it was too much. So back into the pot, and then more powder to kind of cool down some of that moisture. You can use your fingers too if you want. Like if it's finally to a point where you're like, okay, I don't mind using my fingers to start feeling the consistency, then totally feel free to do that. I am just doing this because it's slightly less messy, so I'm not going to have to go and wipe my hands as often, which gives me more time to work with my mixture. Okay, there's some that fell out, and I'm going to go ahead and test that again. It's a little crumbly right now, which I'm not surprised. It could just be that it needs to heat up, because sometimes if you like heat it up, the glue will start reactivating, and then it'll make a better. So really just your skin temperature will help it heat the glue back up, and the glue will definitely start activating, creating an almost like a very loose, but not like wet loose, but like pliable, movable clay. And that's really all you gotta do, and then just gradually work in other bits and bobs of the clay. So just like other pieces of the clay, work it together. Get your body heat from your hands on your clay so that you can really, really help your clay soften a little bit more. It'll start looking like fleshy clay from like a craft store maybe or something. It'll kind of start to look like that and kind of feel like that too. Like a fleshy colored Crayola clay. It's kind of what this is like. And as I get down to the bottom, there's still a little bit of moisture from that too much of that lotion, and it's actually working in my favor because it's helping get some of that powder saturated. Now, if you are under 18, I do recommend you get parent consent for this and parental supervision. And if your parents say you can't make this kind of thing, we'll go out and find something. Please listen to them. They're doing it because they love you. I'm just doing this because I'm a cosmetologist in training, and I really wanted to start working in special effects someday, maybe. I've been kind of thinking about it, and I think I want to go into like the film industry and do special effects makeup for people. So I wanted to practice now so that I could do that later on in life if I ever decided to. So if you don't have enough glue, you will know, because it'll just be very dry feeling, like it'll feel dry and smooth, like it's starting to dry out. Just put a little more glue in there. Obviously don't do too much, just like 1 or 2 drops at the most, because you don't want it too sticky. And then work that into your body clay. I'm just going to start calling it body clay because it looks like my body color for the most part. So it's very close to my body. And let's face it, I could, if I had enough, use it on my entire body to make full body prosthetics. Now I haven't tried baking this clay, so I don't know if this is the kind of thing that will bake very well and form into like really, really hard prosthetics. I don't know if it'll like work in a hair drying heat. I don't know what it's like because I haven't tried that yet, but yeah.